Dan.
And my name is also Dan.
And welcome back to the Dan the Games Man podcast, your fortnightly gaming podcast. And I've been doing a fair amount of gaming this week, as I'm sure you have too, Dan. And so let me know, what have you been playing this week?
I have been ripping and tearing.
I have also ripped and or torn.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I've been getting stuck into Doom the Dark Ages.
Yeah, I've only really scratched the surface. I'm 3 levels in.
I think, how many levels am I in? I've done the first one where you get, like, I'm going to call it the Megazord, just for fun.
Yeah, I think that's the level I'm now. Slight spoilers, but I think if you've seen the trailer,
you know it's coming. They also really want you to know in the preceding ones, don't they? Just as, like, environmental storytelling, like, it's going to be here.
Yeah,
and it's
they set it up pretty much instantaneously.
Yes. Also been doing my usual of drilling down into blueprints, and let me tell you, that gets more confusing the more you get into it. I reached room 46, which I thought, cool, that's the main thing, right? Oh, no it is not.
Is it basically just scratching the surface?
Yes. You then have to annoyingly make it back to the room again on a separate run to find out more stuff about what you're doing. Then there's other secret areas you need to get to, and it's all very obtuse, which I should have seen coming.
Yes.
That's what I've been playing. I've been playing our Dan the Games Man Games Club game of the fortnight.
Yes, I've also been playing Little Kitty Big City, which we'll get on to in a couple of minutes.
Incredibly enjoyable, and I think that, well, actually, no, it doesn't. Aha, I've remembered. I re-enlisted last night, and I joined the war effort on Helldivers 2.
Yes, I was going to jump into this pretty much instantly. It looks like, theoretically, the end could be nigh on Helldivers, as if you haven't seen, or maybe a lot of people have dropped off the game by now.
Kind of.
Because it's been out just over a year, hasn't it?
Yes. Actually.
And basically, Super Earth has actually been invaded by the Illuminate.
Yes.
They are literally here.
From what I can ascertain, it was pretty much as everyone expected. It was that they were hiding a massive force inside the Singularity black hole.
Shocking.
And now they're like, hey, no Mars for you. Blows that up, and now Super Earth is at siege.
Didn't Mars just go, like, instantaneously?
Yes.
They just fireballed
Mars. So now any of the tutorial levels are happening somewhere else, which is kind of a nice.
Yeah, I know they have moved that around quite often, which is quite a nice little touch. But yeah, it looks... I haven't had a chance to jump in yet because I've been hitting some games very hard this week. But yeah, it does look really good. And I do feel like I want to be there for kind of the last stand.
Yeah. On
Super Earth, and I've also seen they've also added more NPC.
Yes.
Seer troops.
Yeah. So you basically have like your is it the Astra Militarium kind of equivalent from 40k?
Yeah, it's kind of like the Imperial Guard running around.
Yeah, you got your bog standard soldiers running about. They kind of help a bit. No,
it's giving me real like Earth Defense Force vibes now, with the skyscrapers and the giant robots flying through the sky and everyone just screaming freedom. Yes,
it's chaos. If you thought it was bad before with like other people on your squad blowing you up, you've now got frequent strafing runs from various different types of ships.
Oh, is the Eagle's still there?
Eagles, I think, are still about, yes, but you've also got weird, constant hovering like squid-looking things that just like shoot down the occasional beam, and then you also have strafing runs from these little Stargate Death Glider-looking things that occasionally just go.
Oh, I really hate those.
They murk you so quick.
I remember like when we were playing actually I think they were with the bots. They got those annoying little glider things that were just kind of coming in. I think I was playing like on the one below Helldive difficulty, and it was just like destroy the airbase, and the sky was just full of them. There was like 15, 16 of them, and you could not move.
No, they are little buggers. They are very difficult to take down.
Yeah, I can imagine on like the Super Helldive levels, like Super Earth must be extreme.
Yes, and flesh mobs now, which are absolutely horrible.
Yeah, that's one of the worst enemies. That's still not the worst enemy I've seen this week.
Oh,
but we'll get on to that. But yeah, so I played a small amount of Doom the Dark Ages, only the first 3 levels. I am really enjoying what I've seen so far.
It's very fun.
It's weird because everyone said all along that it feels heavy, and I get it.
Yeah.
It reminds you of like Space Marine 2, when it feels like you walk around, it's like bonk, 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 and it's like massive steel slamming, and if you jump off anything rather than like 6 foot high, you like slam on the floor, everything flies away, and yeah, it's very good. It definitely feels different to Doom 2016 and Doom the Dark Ages.
Yeah, you feel a lot less like you're on roller skates zipping around everywhere.
Yeah, you feel more like a space marine, like just smash into it, especially with the shield.
Yeah, especially if you do like a big jump off an area and then target in and shield bash.
Yeah.
It's like being
So
a warhead.
if you haven't played it, basically you can either charge any enemy you see, you can charge them with the shield at full rate, and most enemies will just disintegrate.
Yeah, anything around them go bye bye.
Or you can Captain America the shield between things.
I love that.
Or the shield, because the shield isn't quite hardcore enough, also has a chainsaw around it, which can chainsaw people up a good one.
I love it. I especially enjoy like the big guys that they're sort of riding the massive mounts.
Yes.
If you get them stunned and then jump in and do a finish, you just go
just
like
chop them in half. Yeah. I think I like the big guys with the big guns either side, and you just kind of just stick it into their belly, just punching the shield into them. So glory kills, I would say, aren't quite as consistent.
No.
But when you get them, they're so sweet.
Yeah, there are some cool options with upgrades as well. That there's one you can use the needler-looking thing, and it's called like pin cushion. So you just shoot loads into an enemy and sort of overload it, and then they explode and then fire them out back at other people.
Kind of the same as with the mechanic of enemies with shields, where you can essentially overheat their shields by just shooting them so much then they explode when you hit them with a shield.
I enjoyed that.
Yeah, so basically the enemy's holding a shield, you put enough bullets into it, the metal of the shield heats up, then you throw your shield at them and it blows up. It's chaos. And all of this is happening at about 500 million miles an hour.
Yeah, well, you're dodging about 18,000 projectiles at once.
Yeah.
You're seeing which ones you can parry, because parrying's in now too.
Yeah, anything green, parry, anything red, dodge. But it's one of those games, obviously it's on Xbox Games Pass, because what isn't these days? And it's well worth trying out because it is chaos. The battlefields are big, they are full of enemies, and
some of them invisible now. Have you found them yet?
I haven't yet.
I suppose you wouldn't.
Because, like I said, I've only just scratched the surface of Doom the Dark Ages, because I've been putting in some hours into Clair Obscure Expedition 33.
You've
and
been on the hardcore stuff.
Because the further you get into the story of that game, the more emotionally connected and involved it gets. It has some of the best twists in recent years gaming.
Okay. I'm intrigued.
Most of them we will not see coming, and I'm not going to spoil any of them because it is an absolute masterpiece of writing. And I think I'm getting to the point now where I'm really starting to get to my kind of... I think I'm coming about to the midway of the game, and the characters are really starting to come into their own.
Nice.
I've met every character you can meet, having your party, and now it's trying to work out which ones work with each other, and they are all so different.
So you get some good synergies going on and whatnot.
Yeah, and like you get some of them are so random. I'm being like I'm not getting into any kind of details. I do not want to spoil any of this game, and I'm mainly trying to hammer it so I don't get spoiled. Because it's starting to come up on my TikTok now, and I'm starting to see little clips getting around, and yeah, I've heard it just gets better and better and better, and what I've experienced so far, it does just get better and better and better. But I did take time away. Obviously, it's past fortnight between ripping and tearing and crying, playing Clair Obscure to complete Little Kitty Big City.
Oh, yes.
So I'll let you start off on this one.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I'm a ridiculous cat person. I love my cat. I love any cat. I will try and make friends with all cats ever. Except the bald ones. They kind of freak me out a little bit.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's such a cute little... Would you really call it a puzzle?
It's kind of just a sandbox where you just basically play as a cat and do cat-like things.
Yeah, it's mostly fetch quests and just figuring out the best route up things.
Yeah, it's
very fun.
I'd say it's a cat Troidvania.
Yeah, actually.
Because there's certain areas you can't get to and you unlock pretty basic skills to be able to get to them.
Yeah, you get the special fish of powering up and then you can climb places.
Yeah, so essentially the entire point of the game is... This is not spoilery because it explains it in the first 5 minutes. The cat is having a sleep on a windowsill, falls out of a fairly high building.
Yeah.
5 or 6 story building, catches onto a crow, which is how the cat doesn't go splat.
That was actually quite an entertaining bit.
Yeah, that was pretty funny. It's a funny game all the way through. And basically then, you are on a quest to get enough fish for this cat to have enough strength to climb the building to go home.
Yeah, and then have adventures helping the local animals as you go.
Who are all incredible.
And wildly insane if you go by the raccoon.
Yes.
who managed to make space-time bend so you can travel through portals between manholes, which is unexpected.
Which is probably not the weirdest thing in the game.
Strangely, no.
I like the ducks.
That
was a good section where basically you have to go and find a group of ducks. That was really fun. I like how some of them are so simple, like the fish from the fisherman.
Yeah, just wait.
Just wait and slap him.
I just let him put it down and scoffed it in front of him.
I made him trip over. There were so many people I made trip over in that game.
That was one of my prime directives.
Yeah, and just stealing people's stuff. Like, a lot of stealing people's stuff. A lot of running around, just basically doing general cat things. And I like how a lot of the achievements come quite organically.
Yep. It's like meowing a load, napping in places.
Yeah.
Smashing stuff.
I think my favourite one was one you pointed out to me, Big Kitty, Little City.
Yes.
So obviously the opposite name of the game is basically you go to a shop which has like a little model city set up.
It's very fun.
You just bar it as a cat and get an achievement.
And I do like that as well as a dedicated meow button. It has buttons for just doing the classic cat swipe. And just going around and be like, bap, 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 bap.
And also like the kind of, there's another reticle for kind of doing like big stretches and stuff like that.
That's very good.
And you do get a cell phone in it as well.
Yeah, you can take little cute cat selfies in the myriad of hats that you get.
Yeah, there's a lot of hats, which is one of the reasons I am going to go. So we've both seen the end credits, per se, but I feel like it's the kind of game I'd probably go for 100% completion, because I think it's one that's nice to dip in and out of. I finished it in a shade over 2 hours.
Same, I think.
Have you noticed they've added that to Xbox recently? On the main page, when you go to a game, it says this. I don't know how long it's been there, because I do quick resume so often. It says the exact time you've been playing a game, which is scary and also useful.
Yeah, I don't need to be shamed like that.
No, my Balatro was scary. But yeah, it's an absolutely fantastic game. I'm definitely going to go back. I think I'm going to try and get a lot more of the achievements.
Yeah.
And I want to get the last of the hats. Even though, what's your favourite hat?
I was going to ask you. Shark hat's best.
I quite like Cowboy.
Cowboy's good, to be fair.
I like the fact that hard hat meant you could go in the construction site.
Yeah, it acted as
essentially, if you're not wearing hard hat, there's a builder in there who will pick you up and take you out of the construction site. If you are wearing hard hat, he's like, and just lets you carry on.
I wonder if there's like one you can do that in the shop, like, I don't know.
A little shopkeep hat.
Yeah, or like, I don't know, the sushi, and they're like, this is just my stock, it's fine.
Yeah, there was nothing malicious about this game. There was no part of it which was annoying. It was just kind of, it was a nice light puzzle game. I definitely recommend.
It's incredibly enjoyable.
Everyone. It was basically the perfect game for kind of our Danny Games Man Game of the Week.
Yeah.
Game Club.
It was cute as all hell.
It was a really good game, and it's on Games Pass. Definitely recommend it if you haven't checked it out already. Which leads us to this fortnight, Danny Games Man Games Club game to play, which me and Dan went Pokemon card hunting this weekend, which you'll see the video of on the channel the day after this, actually. So that'll be Saturday live at 5.
Excellent.
So follow me on YouTube if you don't already. If you only listen to the podcast, I'm over on YouTube at Danny Games Man, shockingly. And we got talking about, we were kind of actually planning somewhat for the podcast.
Yeah.
Which is crazy.
I had to sit down for a second.
Yeah. And we decided on a game which I'm shocked that Dan hasn't played, as I believe it's kind of a must-play game, and that is What Remains of Edith Finch.
Yeah, I think it's always one that pops up just because algorithms look at the amount of walking sims and like walking horror sims and things. It's like, you must want to play this, surely.
Yeah.
So I haven't.
Full disclosure, I have already played it, but I have an absolutely manic 2 weeks, so I'm going to probably jump in and out. I'm actually trying to go for 100% completion, so I think I only missed like 2 or 3 achievements, but
solid. Yeah,
we will be discussing it on the next episode of the podcast. Dan would have played it for the first time. I'll be kind of looking back at it. After about 2 years, I think, since I last played it, but yeah, I'm really excited for that one. And we will go from there onto the news in what has been a fairly quiet fortnight of gaming news.
It's been a bit of a drought, hasn't it?
I think I have maybe 4 pieces of news, which normally we have multiple pieces of news, but
yeah, I've got like 2, and then it's just updates on various different releases or editions.
Well, I'll start off with something which goes to prove my theory, which we've had throughout the podcast, that AI is an inherent evil which will destroy the entire world.
I think so.
Have you seen the Darth Vader AI in Fortnite?
I know that Lucasfilms are very mad about that, are they not?
Yes, so essentially, for anyone who hasn't seen it, Fortnite added an AI Darth Vader with an AI voice of James L. Jones, and they released it into Fortnite. This is very, very, very not suitable for work in case you go and search it up, by the way, because the AI went rogue within 2 hours. People broke the AI and it came out with so many racial slurs, swearing, homophobia. It came out with anything bad with the human race. It unleashed within 2 hours.
Oh, so I massively misunderstood from what I've seen. I thought it was just like they'd pre-generated some voice clips of him. I didn't realise it was like
this
a live
was the plan.
AI.
It was going to be a lovely AI which came on adventures with people in Fortnite and picked teams to join and had like, you know, if you were wearing like a Luke Skywalker skin in Fortnite and have a nice conversation. It started off like that. It was like, I like your lightsaber, or red lightsaber, you must be a Sith like me, and all this normal stuff, and then people broke it within 2 hours.
Did they learn nothing from like when they put a bot on Twitter and then it just went absolutely buck wild and white supremacist?
No, and essentially they put it on arguably one of the most toxic environments they could put it, and it went rogue. And also, it's all a bit crazy on Fortnite in a minute, and also they've unleashed the Dark Jar Jar skin, which has an insanely amount of XP to unlock, and I think it's still behind a paywall, but I think
perfect.
It's been the closest I've ever been to jumping into Fortnite because of all the Star Wars season. In a minute, it does look really good, but it just goes to show once again that AI ruins everything.
Yeah, that would not have been the way I'd have gone with it if I was doing it. I'd have just been like, we'll generate some new voice lines with AI and just have it at that. Not, let's see how quick it can just become an absolute degenerate.
But going for some bad Star Wars news, so actually some good Star Wars news, and this is exciting. So remember a couple of years ago we had Barbieheimer, or Oppen Barbie? So basically two massive cultural things happened at the same time. Barbie and Oppenheimer were in the cinema, people were doing the double.
Yes.
We've got something to the same kind of level to look forward to in 2026.
Okay.
This is video game related, so stick with me. So, in May 2026, in the same week, GTA 6 is launching and the Mandalorian and Grogu movie in a cinema. As a Star Wars fan and a gaming fan and a big GTA fan, that is a strong week.
Thing is, though, are you going to want to take time away from playing GTA when it drops to go and see that?
It's probably going to be the one thing that drags me away from GTA for like a solid week.
And isn't around about the same time Avengers Doomsday, I think?
I think it is, yeah. I think like next summer's shaping up to be
1 month.
Pretty strong. Which amazed me because I would not release anything around then.
That's a dangerous game.
I can't remember what game company it still was. It was like, we're releasing the game the same day. I actually looked it up. I don't know if they've retracted. I think we spoke about it last time.
Yeah.
I think they've retracted their statement since of saying they were going to release a game on the same day. I think they were like, you know what? We're just not. But
we could just pour some money down the toilet instead.
Yeah, I'll tell you about you. I've got 2 more stories which somehow get weirder.
So one I'm excited about is I've been keeping tabs on it constantly. The general page disappeared from the Quest storefront, so I was a little bit concerned. And that's about Hard Bullet. But then I gave it a bit of a Googling, and we finally actually do have a release date for that on Quest. And that is the 27th of this month.
Oh, so like days away.
Yeah, very soon. So we can all John Wick it up and make our therapists very concerned about us.
Yes, so just describe that game for those who don't know.
It looks like an incredibly robust physics-based sandbox kind of shooter carnage game. It's almost like a God complex kind of thing. You just get waves of enemies come at you. You can interact with all different things. You've got like super strength to the ability that you can just pick people up one-handed and yeet them about. You get guns, crowbars, bottles, dynamite.
Is this the one you kind of see on TikTok periodically when people are playing as either Deadpool and Spider-Man and like doing weird flips and stuff?
I think so, yeah.
It looks like one of the most impressive physics engines I think we've ever seen.
Yeah, I did see a clip where somebody like battered someone's assault rifle away as they like shot someone else, then pulled that person's gun out of their hand, beat them with it, and then snapped someone else's arm off with the gun.
So John Wick VR.
Pretty much, which I'm very pleased about. The only other news I have is a bit of a wet fart of one, and that's a content roadmap has come out for Avowed, and it's stunningly boring.
I did see that, and yes, it's the most boring thing I've ever seen.
It was like, oh yeah, 3 bits. It's like, surely one of these are going to have something interesting, and it's just patch notes. Maybe
I
some
thought
new
it might have
armor.
been DLC, another interesting DLC. Some of the highlights include markers,
New Game Plus.
like custom game markers. I think it's the new 4K
Yeah.
enemy AI.
Loot drops for critters.
Yeah, the arachnophobia mode removes spiders, which would remove about a fifth of the enemies in the game.
Yeah, because it's just, what do you want, spiders or mushrooms? That's pretty much it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was a bit of a...
Yeah, that was kind of disappointing. So I really enjoyed Avowed, and then they were like, nothing.
The map really made it seem as if there were plenty of room
Oh,
to
it was like
expand into.
literally, I presume, because basically it's the part of the map, the rest of the map, I presume that's what it was going to be, but who knows, maybe it wasn't as critical success as everyone thinks. Maybe it's not. Maybe they're just going to work on Avowed 2.
Yeah, I suppose.
Or Divinity 3?
Could be. I mean, at the minute, I suppose they're polishing Outer Worlds 2, so maybe that's just...
Yeah.
They've gone, done with this game.
Yeah, they don't seem to be a fan of... They seem to finish their games and go, nah,
that's enough.
that's enough.
They say finish their games.
Yeah, at least they finished them. So somehow my news is getting weirder. So obviously Doom the Dark Ages is everywhere at the moment, as it should be, because as we said, it's a fantastic game. I've seen it on the side of buses, I've seen it on posters, seen it on bus stops, the normal kind of places. I think we even saw it at cinema, didn't we? Saw a trailer at the cinema, which is really cool to see on the cinema screen. But Doom the Dark Ages was also at the Chelsea Flower Show.
Please elaborate.
So this is as I said, it's been a slow news fortnight. This is a real reach. It was official. They had a Doom Eternal fire pit. No, sorry, Doom the Dark Ages fire pit at the Chelsea Flower Show. So it's the first video game franchise to feature at a flower show.
And it's really not the one you'd expect.
No, yeah, just a Doom the Dark Ages fire pit, which you can buy your own desktop version of for like 300 quid.
It's a steal at twice the price.
Which is insanity.
I was a massive fan of that thing you showed me on TikTok. That was the exclusive box people were getting from.
That was cool.
Yeah, what had the little can of premixed cocktail, branded little blow lamp things, and hickory smoked bits.
Yeah, I was
very cool.
Absolutely incredible. Like, yeah, please, sponsor us.
Send us some.
Send us things.
Then we'll get drunk on them on the 18 rated podcast. It'll be fun.
Yes, so the final piece of news coming. We have decided the 18 rated podcast is coming very soon. We have built up a wild enough selection of Reddit stories. We have our gonsters at the ready. It is going to be mad. It will have warnings at the start. There will be adult themes and adult language, and it should be out in the next few weeks.
I'm very excited for
and yeah, it's not for the faint of hearted. Kind of like this final story I have this time, where progressively every piece of news I've had this time has got stranger. And I think we're going to end on the strangest, but probably not when you consider this is Hideo Kojima news.
Excellent.
So let's start at the tip of the iceberg. Death Stranding to the Beach is coming very, very soon.
Okay, yes.
It looks very good. Supposedly it fixes a lot of the issues of the first game.
Nice.
And it's going to be mental because
It's Kojima.
I don't think there's any monster in this one though, which is a disappointment.
0 out of 10.
Yeah.
Would not play.
If you haven't played, the first game is basically sponsored by Monster, but
A Monster, if you'd like to sponsor us.
okay, again, yes. So Hideo Kojima has realised he may die one day. So what he's done in event of his death is leave a USB of video game ideas for games he may not have time to make before he dies, so somebody can carry on his legacy once he's dead. So somewhere in the world exists a USB stick full of Hideo Kojima video game ideas. And what insanity must that contain?
Yeah, if that's got the bits he hasn't made.
Yeah.
He's also kind of just basically made an equivalent of the Patriots Legacy thing.
Yes. I imagine he's the kind of person, he will probably be the first person who will upload his consciousness at death into an AI to exist forever.
Oh gosh.
And that will probably be one of the games on that USB.
And that'll probably be one of the things that starts about the apocalypse, because that man's unhinged.
And it will probably be one of the more normal things on that.
I saw a headline the other day. It was like, Kojima wants to make a game where the character forgets the longer you're away from the game. It's like, I don't need that already. If I'm away from a game, I forget how to play it myself.
I did see that as well. And again, these are probably the more normal games on that USB stick.
Yeah. I'd imagine he probably wants to remake I Am Bread, but you can't move, and it's just a piece of bread getting eaten by a pigeon.
Or just sitting there and screaming into the void. But yeah, I'm on the fence about Death Stranding 2, but I think you've got some other games that are coming up.
Yes. So I had a little look about games coming out around about this week, and golly, once you start scratching the surface, there's a lot more coming out than you'd assume. So I'll start kind of normally, and then I'm going to have to almost Ace Ventura some of these because it gets ridiculous. We've got Blades of Fire, and that's out on PlayStation, PC, and Xbox. That's from 505 Games and the team behind Castlevania Lords of Shadow.
Ooh.
It's an interesting standard fantasy looking kind of thing. One thing described it as kind of soulsy. Don't know about that. But apparently they're leading...
Weird. Sorry to jump in.
You're right.
Weird time to release that.
A little bit, yeah.
Which will become evident why in probably a couple of minutes.
I reckon. Yeah, and it's apparently got a lot of interesting, quote-unquote, crafting in there. I guess because of like the main conceit of the story is that something's changed all of the steel in the world to stone.
I have seen this game.
Yeah, so there's a lot going on. I guess your character's probably a smithy of some kind.
Yes, so I have seen a little bit more about this game. So basically, you are a smithy? You make swords out of the steel, and essentially you don't upgrade, but your sword does, and you have to get more steel to upgrade it or to keep it from deteriorating.
Okay.
So I think you basically farm the enemies to get the steel to improve your sword.
Nice.
So essentially, the entire game mechanic is smithing this sword, which is either going to get really boring really quick, or if they can keep it fresh, be really interesting.
Yeah. It is interesting that they've given their main character just a really highfalutin fantasy name of Aaron.
Yeah, it doesn't scream.
No. One of two that might interest us / give us vitamin D deficiency, and that's a deck building roguelike combat game called Monster Train, and it's the second one. I didn't know there was one before.
I think is it kind of like a bit like Slay the Spire kind of jobby?
Yeah, kind of that Darkest Dungeon kind of vibe. Sounds interesting. And the other one in that vein is called, where was it? I have it here somewhere. Apparently I don't.
I'm just sitting in the list of games you have coming out. It's absolutely insane. I thought it was quiet at the moment.
I did as well. Yeah, I'm sure I'll find it in a second. Oh, there it is. Villages and Dungeons on PC and Steam. It's another roguelike deck builder. Although this one you might not enjoy quite so much because it has sound and art in game that is AI generated.
Nope.
Nope. But yeah, some more roguelike card battlers, which is either a good or a bad thing depending on whether you want rickets.
Yeah. Perfect way to spend your summer.
One I'm actually, apparently critically it hasn't garnered a great response so far, but I'm really interested in, and it is a Konami game, and that is Deliver at All Costs.
Looks quite fun, that does.
It does, just absolute carnage. Kind of a top-down isometric-y delivery game.
Yeah, kind of thing like GTA 1 2.
Yeah.
But with more destruction.
Yeah, you can just crash through buildings, people ragdoll, stuff goes everywhere.
Screams Game Pass to me.
Yeah, it's, imagine like you work for DPD, except you actually get the package there, is what I'm thinking.
I'm thinking more Etsy.
Yeah, that's true. Just turns up at some point in
the
that
looks good fun.
One that needs very little explanation, and that is Zombie VR 2, or Zombie VR, sorry. And that's on PSVR 2, Quest, Rift, Steam VR, probably a microwave at this point.
Yeah, I'm sure something has to be on PlayStation VR 2.
Yeah, they've had a bit
Take
of
it up to a grand total of 3 games.
I mean, one of them's a demo, right?
2 of them.
I've got Elise Magitech Edition. I think it's a collection of things, and that's on Switch and PlayStation, which is another roguelike, but an action puzzler.
Oh, is that the flavour of the week, is it?
Really seems to be.
Just time to release all the...
Everything is roguelites. I think I've got another one later on. Nitro Express, which does look kind of fun. It's a retro-style run-and-gun side-scrolling shooter. Looks kind of Metal Sluggish.
Nice.
But if you play as kind of a influencing ego kind of character. Intriguing.
Interesting.
Yeah. Villages and Dungeons, Siege and Sandfox, Metroidvania, pixel art, parkour, stealth kind of game.
Yep, everything.
Yeah, all of the things. Cyber Warrior, it's on Steam and PC. It's a hacking sim. It's weird. You sort of play, you have the one window, and it's if you're playing on just an old style desktop, and you're having to figure out what some shadowy cabal is doing. You're hacking through things, you're going through folders. Bit of a puzzle game. Kind of like one of those mystery boxes that gets sent to your house kind of thing. Cathy Rain 2, a point-and-click adventure. Jumping Jazz Cats, online platforming chaos, also jazz.
That's stuck out to me so far.
So far, I think it's also not the only cat game, which is interesting. Mosquito Gang, which from what I can gather is an asymmetric multiplayer where you play as either a human or one of 4 mosquitoes trying to really annoy them.
That sounds like it could be quite amusing.
I think it could be, especially as human, you're just first person going around, but the
Swatting.
mosquitoes can be like...
Like kind of those little planes go around King Kong on top of...
Yes, which also, why isn't that a game? Or this one you mentioned a couple of weeks back, Desktop Survivors 98.
Yes.
Which looks intriguing in as much that it isn't just like the Vampire Survivor style thing. There's some other little bits going on in there.
Is there?
I think you have to solve certain puzzles by doing gubbins that you do on an old computer, or like play solitaire for certain reasons, and I don't know, there's other stuff too.
It looks like really interesting, doesn't it?
I'm very intrigued. And my piece of crap computer will be able to play it.
Is it just Steam PC?
As far as I'm aware, yes.
Shame.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
A prize for the most ridiculous and unnecessary title is JDM Japanese Driftmaster.
Yep.
And also a pretty self-explanatory game. Survive the Fall. Resource management and zombies. Boring. Fretless, The Wrath of Rifson. Rhythm game. Turn-based combat. No, thank you.
No.
I'm just going to start ripping through these now, because I have many more. Out of Sight. This one actually does kind of sound interesting, and it's a first-person walking horror sim, but you're playing as a blind girl who can see through her teddy.
Okay.
Which, I don't know if that makes it first-person or second-person at that point, but now I'm getting into semantics.
I actually saw something about this recently. Second person would be somebody watching you, but you're still controlling you.
Oh, okay.
So it's probably third person.
That's a good point, yeah.
So I just dropped that
That
weird nugget of knowledge in.
If you play it through VR.
Ooh.
CDAP, a culinary adventure. Co-op cooking adventure, which tells me nothing.
Yep.
Windward Horizon. Really, really interesting. I'm sure if you like managing stock levels on a boat. I don't. Duck Detective. The Ghost of Glamping. Great title. It's sort of a papercraft style puzzle game. Think almost the style of like Mario paper stuff.
Oh, Paper Mario.
Yeah,
that sounds cool.
But you're a
ducks.
detective.
And a
So
duck.
very fun. And TMNT Tactical Takedown.
How have I not heard about this?
Yeah, it's very intriguing. The art style looks very comic booky, but all of the characters, turtles and foot soldiers and everything, are actually little miniatures.
Oh.
And it's little, as if you're playing a tabletop game of TMNT.
Ooh, and where is this released?
That is PC and Steam, from what I can see.
Oh.
But hopefully not too taxing a thing that it might be
The
easier to
thing
play
is,
on
a lot of the TMNT games are coming out on one thing at the moment, then getting ported over. Like, I know we're getting Splintered Fate, like, soon.
Is that the Flavour of the Week roguelike one?
Yes, it is the Turtles roguelike.
One.
Yep.
And that is all of the ones I could find so far.
So are we
that are
still
new
a couple of
releases.
weeks away from Elden Ring?
Night Rain, I believe that is the 30th.
So maybe the next one.
Yes.
That's a lot.
That's many things. I'm going to have some water.
Right, I will go on to our Reddit story of the week. And this one is obviously been picked by my wife once again. I have no idea what these are until I open them up literally here on the podcast. It is another Tfue one.
Excellent.
Which stands for?
Today I found upset.
That's some terrible English. And yeah, this is a kind of link between Pokemon, because we've been Pokemon card hunting this past weekend, and also bosses. So the main topic of today's podcast will be bosses, because some of the bosses which I'm not going to speak about in Expedition 33 are absolutely incredible. Some of the best bosses I've ever seen in video games, and today we'll be talking about 5 each of our favourite bosses in video games. And yeah, but we'll start off with this Reddit story. So today I fudged up by defeating the Elite Four at the worst point in a very important conference call.
Okay.
So, again, we are going to do an 18 rated Reddit story. These are the ones we can read out on here. This one has got some swearing, so I will cut it out. Do I get bonus points for this happening today? Little backstory. I hate my job with a passion. I excelled very far in a certain field and got all other roles takes away from me to focus on this mind-numbing process I can apparently break records in. I have a semi-private office and can get away with playing on my phone most days. If certain people aren't in that day, I can get away with Netflix. But a safe option has always been playing around on my phone since my data allowance started taking a real chomp. When I found a new way to speed up my working routine, I decided to switch to my old Pokemon games. Fire Red, for those who must know. Good choice. Which Pokemon game are you in the old school?
Yellow. Yellow's my
Red.
old school.
So, I digress. So over the last 2 weeks, I've managed to train myself up a good little team. Decided that I wouldn't use any legendaries or cheat codes to get certain Pokemon. Leaving the only real challenge for the most part was catching a Dratini in a Safari Zone. That is hard. I haven't played a new Pokemon game since Silver, Gold and Crystal, and Fire Red was a recent purchase to relive old glories. So trying to remember the weaknesses, evolutions, everything else to be the best, like no one ever was, actually turned out to be quite challenging and really enjoyable. Until the final 4, I was not doing well pretty much all day Monday, maybe 2 or 3 hours of playing, and I'd fall at either Lance or the Ghost Woman. Simple mistakes or risks I shouldn't take. I had a splitting headache, so I wasn't concentrating that much anyway. I gave up, turned my phone off and went back to work for once. Then comes today. I'm through to Lance. All 6 Pokemon still going on healthy. I'm halfway through the battle. He's already lost 3 of his Pokemon. I get a call from the other office telling me it's a conference call on line 1. This is an important call. There's our manager, his manager, the area manager, regional director, and that guy's boss. So we are talking the final boss here.
This is almost like when people beat all 3 Dark Souls games with one controller. He's like doing all of this stuff at once.
I don't even know what the guy's title is, but he probably made what I make in a year just listening to the next 5 minutes of awkwardness. This guy's a proper gamer. I defeated Lance during the opening of the conference and I lost 2 Pokemons. No revives left, a few max potions, so I restore my 4 remaining Pokemon and head off to face Green. I'm not involved during this part of the conversation on the phone, so I just focus on my battle. It's tense. It's down to one-on-one. My Raichu hits a Thunder on Blastoise and I win. Forgetting where I am, I shout fudge yeah. Not what they did say. Top of his voice, fudge yeah. On a conference call with the final boss.
Hopefully, they'll just think he's really enthusiastic about work.
Silence.
Oh.
And then the silence is broken. Who the fudge said that? I will find out who said that and I will make sure I come down there and fire you personally. God help whoever that was. End of the phone call. I hang up, pretend not to know anything and go ask my manager in the other office what just happened. Explain that I wasn't listening to that part of the conversation since my part wasn't for another 10 minutes in the briefings. The explanation is horrifying. This is pretty much a quote from what they said. It was insane. The final boss was talking about charity work and the collections at each of our stores. He said something like, "Oh my, this is a charity I set up for a memorial for my daughter who died last year," and someone yelled, "Fudge yeah."
Oh no!
Oh no! How? Oh! Today I fudged up. Whoever said that is screwed. Just keep quiet the rest of the day and try to keep all queries in this office. Give him time to find out who that was. So that's where I am now. Probably going to get fired. At least I hated this job. You know, sometimes there's not an update on these Reddit stories. Yeah. You need to know. There is an update.
Yeah.
Update. Holy poo. My inbox exploded and front page kind of awesomeness. For those wanting an update, I post this about 11 p.m. over here, so I'll give a proper update tomorrow when I'm back in and find out what's going on. The conference got rescheduled, so hopefully I won't do the same thing again. I would hope not.
Just put the Game Boy in another room.
And also, no, the phone did not have a mute function. Mute functions cost money. This is a budget business.
Yeah.
Update 2. Okay, so most important question out of the way. My team was Charizard, Dragonite, Raichu, Pidgeot, Marowak, and polygraph. That's the main thing we need to answer out of this question. Update 2. Question 2, my phone really didn't have a mute. Question 3, yes, in 2014, the phone did not have a mute. In all seriousness, in a mix of people wishing I'd get fired, calling lies, or just crying about something else, some people asked for an actual update. I walked into work this morning and the final boss, who shall henceforth be known as Giovanni, incredible,
Glorious.
So that's added to this, has scheduled a new meeting and blamed unfortunate timing and inappropriate actions on both ends, and the matter is pretty much over with. Seems like all will be okay. I've decided to chat with my boss about incorporating new roles into my job, and looks like I'll have some more things to do around the office. Yay. I'll try and respond to my lunch break to some more comments. A lot of people are saying, like, no, they don't believe it, but I believe that's the kind of thing that would happen. I know people who do this. They will game at work, and with a lot of calls now, you can't just simply go on mute.
Yeah. Like,
with some of these
down, please.
call centres and stuff like that, you have to have things on loud so they know you're doing the courses. Yeah. And I can imagine the feeling of like beating a game like that, but the timing.
And like the things we saw during lockdown of people making big old oopsies on Teams, I can quite easily believe that happened.
That is I
call not shenanigans on that.
I'm confident that one's true, and I'm very glad it's true because we've all been there.
Oh, 100%.
Just the worst possible timing. Quite possibly the worst timing I've pretty much ever heard, but what absolutely fantastic segue into our next section.
And what's that, Dan?
So our next section is video game bosses. Like I said, coming off the strength of the bosses on Expedition 33, we decided to look back at some of our favourite video game bosses of all time, and we're going to definitely have to revisit this in the future, as I had many.
Yes, and I'm not going to say taken liberties, but I've maybe done some that slightly more unorthodox picks because of particular criteria I've thought of.
Yeah, I've gone with some obvious ones and some ones which I don't think some people may have heard of that I'd recommend, but I'm going to let you go first because I'm ready it out for a moment.
That's fair. I'm still reeling from that a little bit. Okay, so I'm not going to have them in any particular order.
No.
So, for one that it really encapsulated some of the silliness in a very dark gaming world.
Perfect.
And that is not just because of the name, which I'll get to in a second, but because of the way you can dispatch them. And that is the ceaseless discharge in Dark Souls 2.
I did wonder how long it takes for you to have a Dark Souls boss on this list.
Yeah, it's a ridiculous one. He's like a umpteen... Is it 2 or is it 1?
Ooh.
It might actually be 1, I think.
Pitchforks at the ready, folks.
I think it's 1, because it's Quaylag's brother. Yeah, Dark Souls 1. My bad.
Good save.
You can basically start the battle, bait them over to a certain area where they cannot hit you, and then they just fall off a cliff and die.
Get good.
Yeah, and you just can win a really tough battle in about 3 seconds if you just make the right jump, survive.
Pitchforks back out.
Would you like that game?
Comments, Dad, get good. Dad, get good.
I've done my time in the mines.
I am talking about, Dan, I am terrible at Dark Souls because I have not got a patience. So I commend anyone who's got anywhere in those games.
To be fair, I don't know if I'm good. I'm just kind of bullheaded about them. There's a video from when I did a full playthrough of Dark Souls 2 that was not even a numbered episode. It was just solely me trying to beat this one mob boss. It was just 3 guys in one area, and I was just getting so irate.
This is how I'd imagine it would be if I did it.
It's terrible. It's fun when you get to it, but it was terrible at the time. I hurt my voice.
Is that the only Dark Souls boss on your list?
It is not.
Didn't think it would be. Could have done this easily about Dark Souls bosses. I actually did step away from that because I've watched a lot of Dark Souls playthroughs and I know some really cool bosses, but I'm going to go really basic here just because the mechanics of this boss are incredible. And I remember the first time playing this, and that's on Mario 64 and Bowser.
Nice.
Because it's just such a fun boss. I feel like the early Mario games with Bowser's like, oh look, there's Bowser. I jumped over him. He fell in lava. Wob wob.
Yeah.
And then, and you go to Mario 64. You're like, whoa, Mario's 3D, and you're like, you got this analog, and you can kind of really control him, and everything's cool. And then you get to like fight Bowser, and you're like grabbing him by the tail, and you're like spinning the analog, and he just goes, whoa, and it just flies away. And it's like, it's such a satisfying boss. It's not difficult. It's not. And looking back at it now, it's like, that's so basic.
Yeah.
But for the time back in the day, in the late 90s, when that came out on the N64, and that like kind of personified that console.
Yeah.
The controls, the 3D, and it's just such a cool boss. Yeah. And it's one that's just kind of stuck with me just for that whole. It's just a classic. I think it's one of the most classic bosses of all time. It's basically hit him 3 times.
Hammer throw
him. Jobs are good. And it's
very cathartic.
It's an iconic one. It's the most basic one on my list. And I just had to include it.
I'm going to go with one that maybe people don't quite class as a boss, but I think they are. They're at least definitely the antagonist and could easily be argued for boss. And that is GLaDOS from the Portal series.
Yeah, that's a good smack-talking boss.
Yeah, if you want to be made to feel like you're an idiot, that's the one. Like I do now after that sentence, because that just went really wrong. But anyway, I just loved the not even back and forth. The shell defense.
Just the consistent.
The fourth and fourth.
Belittlement.
Yeah, it's just, and then in Portal 2 when they become like an unwilling sort of partner.
Yeah.
I just love the sass and the songs at the end.
Yeah, and the cake was a lie.
The cake was a lie. It's a shame.
Yeah, that's a really good one. I might do a really random one now.
It reminded me of Portal properly, and I might go back and replay that soon because
we should do a co-op play up of Portal 2.
That'd be good.
That would be good. I'm going to go with a quite random one here, and I think this basically defines what I think a boss should be.
Mm-hmm.
I think it should be epic. This is a spoiler for a very old game, so this is the final boss of Bayonetta.
Never played it, so I'm intrigued.
Now, I would say Bayonetta kind of goes slightly below kind of Dark Souls level.
Okay.
It's extreme. There's a lot going on. It's a crazy, crazy game. I could probably do like an hour podcast about how mad Bayonetta is. Essentially, you're a witch who has gone on a mission to kill God.
Ah.
Essentially, I'm boiling the storyline down very much and missing a lot of details. And essentially, you fight. Spoiler alert once again. The final boss, Jubileus, it's just a massive godlike statue which is basically bigger than the earth, and you're kind of driving up it on a motorbike and going along tentacles, and it's all in space, and Bayonetta's hair's turning into a demon and chomping at it, and like you're shooting it with your guns and your shoes which are also guns, and like flipping on a motorbike. It's just and the music's insane. It's just a sensory overload, and it's absolutely insane.
And I think what's good about it as well is it's relatable.
Yeah. But I think it's just... But by this point in the game, you're like, that's normal. Bayonetta is a fantastic game that not enough people talk about.
Yeah.
It's a really, really good game, and it perfectly encapsulates the chaos of the game, and just, it's one of the biggest bosses in any game. Not the biggest by a long way.
Yeah. But
yeah, it's just absolute insanity.
Sounds pretty wild.
Definitely want to check out.
Yeah. So, kind of sticking with the idea of like interesting, not maybe gimmick bits, but sort of stranger mechanics. The end from Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Again, I knew there'd have to be I have got a Metal Gear Solid boss on here because you cannot talk about bosses. Excuse the pun, we're about to talk about Metal Gear.
But yes, I liked that there were several different ways you could take them out and like different mechanics within them.
How did you kill him?
Really?
Spoiler alert.
I did all different types because you could get to the boss fight and then either wait or change the clock on your PlayStation and he'd die of old age.
Cheap.
Which is excellent. You could, in a little bit, if you were quick enough when you got into one of the earlier levels when he was being wheeled around in his wheelchair, you could just snipe him. Which is quite fun. And then strangely his chair exploded and you got hit by a wheel from it, which was always fun.
Again, one of the more normal bosses of Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater.
Pretty much.
It'd be interesting to see people get to experience it again very soon.
Yeah. And have the moral quandary of, do I trap his parrot to try and track him on high.
Yeah, I think that was one of the ways I did it. I think I actually managed to sneak up on him.
That's always fun when you can.
Yeah, it's very difficult.
I think that's the only way you can get like his particular camo. I think you like hold him up at gunpoint.
Yeah, I think you literally have to try and. It's very hard to out stealth him.
Yeah,
very good boss.
Yeah, and his creepy eye it just kind of goes up.
Yeah,
with his scope.
So I went with. Some people may argue this is a basic pull from Metal Gear, but I think because it's so early in the first Metal Gear on PlayStation 1, which was for most people where they first started playing Metal Gear, where I'd say the iconic bosses started, and I would say Revolver Ocelot, just because it's still one of my favourite things to quote of all time. Anytime I reload in a game, it's I love to reload during a battle. Like, who loves to reload during a battle? It's one of the stupidest quotes of all time. Like, Revolver Ocelot takes such joy from reloading, and like the fact he can accidentally kill your partner whose name I've gone out of my head, and it was just like such a tense.
Yeah.
It was just so different to any kind of boss battle. Again, like Mario 64, that had come to that point, and it really set the kind of scene for the rest of the game and the insane bosses.
Yeah, and to be fair, like I know they reuse some of the particular bits in different bosses in later games, but it was never always just straight boss battles. There was always going to be something peculiar, whether it's poisoning the food for the pain or having to defuse bombs with Fat Man. Although I know we don't talk about Metal Gear Solid 2 that much.
Yeah, I'm sure most people are like, why are you not saying Psycho Mantis? It's like, I think it's been talked about so much.
Yeah.
You know, we all know now to take our controller out and put it in port 2. But back then we didn't know that. And I'm going to be talking about a boss in a minute, which is another one. Back then, we did not know how to kill it.
But the fact that they memed it in Guns of the Patriots.
Yes.
I think that says why we shouldn't bring it up. Okay, what one do I go for next? I'm gonna... Okay. My other Dark Souls entry, Ornstein and Smog. I don't know, because they don't say their names.
Is this one that's so infamous I know it? Is it the big fat man and the little man?
Yep, and whichever one you kill first, the other one basically gets a Highlander-style quickening and gets worse and bigger.
Yeah.
So, they like... You take one down and he's nearly dead, and the other one just comes in and completely finishes them off, siphons their essence, and is like level 2. And it's...
Is it one of the first times in Dark Souls when you have like a multiple phase?
I think so, yeah.
You're like, hooray, I've done it! Oh, the music's getting louder and faster.
Yeah, and that then ingrains in you in any Dark Souls that if the music's still going, or you get a cutscene rather than just enemy felled, you're like, oh no. Bad things are occurring.
It's become such a meme as well, hasn't it?
Yeah, they've even started trying to trick you with it by like, oh, the music's over, and then giving it a few minutes and then be like, ooh.
It just goes back even heavier.
I swear there's one in Dark Souls 3 that it has 3 phases, and it's like one person, then it comes back riding a bigger person, and then it's the first one again, but turned up to 11. It's like, oh, have a day off, mate.
Crap. That's an absolute iconic one.
It's a big boy.
So, kind of going on with what I said about Metal Gear Solid, like, basically, with some of the bosses back then, you had to kind of experiment with how to kill them. And there was one boss back then, which me and my friend tried to kill for months and months on end. And this is back when you couldn't just jump online and look up a guide of how to kill it. And that is the ruby weapon in Final Fantasy VII. So, if you haven't played Final Fantasy VII before, I think there's 3 weapons which are like the hardest kind of end game bosses in the game, and most of them can take you out in like one shot. They have hundreds of thousands of health. You have to basically go in with max leveled out characters with like summons, with like your ultimate attacks, and you might stand a chance. But like every time we would go after Ruby Weapon, it's in the desert, you have to fly the ship into it, and then you go into the fight. Straight away it'll go tentacles in the ground, kill 2 of your characters. Flat out.
Seems fair.
Just dead. You're like, okay, now I'm down to 1 character. It was an absolute nightmare of a boss to work out how to defeat it. and it just, I remember just weeks of just farming XP to try and get more and more and more and more and more. And I think eventually went back and took it out with Knights of the Round, like the most extreme summon in the game to kill this thing. I think it took like nearly an hour because it had so much health. Now, obviously, you can go back now, look up on YouTube. There's ways to kill it in like 10 minutes, just with like certain builds of character. But just having to kind of work out how to kill this boss back then, and the drop from doing it is just like a gold chocobo. Like, hooray! I've just wasted like weeks of my life working this one out. But yeah, it was
several of my party are dead. But okay.
One of the most like fist pump in the air, kind of moments in gaming to finally kill it.
I like those. I also like the ones where like you, after a while, you find out there's one particular. You can whittle them down, or there's a particular item or thing you can do that basically one-shots them, stuff like that. Those are always fun. Like, I think in one of the Resident Evil Outbreaks, you could get like a little syringe gun and a cure, or you could use that against the tyrant thing, and it'd be like, dead.
It's one shot.
Yeah, it's like, bye-bye. It's pretty fun.
Which brings us to your final boss.
Now, this is another one of my cheeky ones, and that is Dracula from Vampire Survivors. And that is because he spent...
Do you know what? We hadn't brought up Vampire Survivors a whole episode.
I know, right? It's very surprising. So I'm glad I put this in here. Otherwise, I'd have felt bereft.
Yeah.
So you spend all the time in the Castlevania DLC getting up to the throne room with a particular character.
Yeah.
And he throws a hissy fit that you are... spoilers. You've run through his castle and you've been killing all of these monsters. He's basically like trying to just give somewhere to live, and he's like, right, I'm fed up of this. Why are you always adventuring in here? And rather than fight Dracula, it then just comes up that Dracula has joined your team. So the final boss is kind of not actually the final boss.
And that is a lot of work to get to that point.
It took me a lot of time.
I have not got to it because it's like you have to do a perfect run with about 20 something characters at least.
Pretty much, yeah.
And maximise their weapons and do a lot for that. That's like...
Yeah, you have to do certain challenges with weapons to get certain characters, to then be able to get other characters, to get the one... Because you can only access the throne room and get Dracula to be there with one character.
Yeah.
Which was really irritating.
How is Dracula as a playable character then?
Pretty wild.
Yeah.
His first attack is basically like just this goblet that he throws out that does damage. And once you get to a certain... level, he gets like ultimate Dracula form and just becomes friggin' enormous and just like batters anything it comes into contact with. It's pretty good. Very fast movement speed as well.
Speaking of things that batter everything they come into, I knew I had to have a God of War boss on here from one of the games, and I think I've gone with the one that I think kind of, because it's from my favourite God of War game, God of War 2016. And I think it's just because it comes in such... Oh, no, it's not actually. It's from God of War Ragnarok. I nearly made a faux pas. And it's Boulder.
Pitchforks away.
The Stranger.
Ah.
So right at the start of God of War Ragnarok, you are attacked by the Stranger, who essentially like slams you through a mountain, and it's just like, here comes a nice relaxing new God of War game, and it's absolute insanity from the start. You're basically like fighting, getting thrown through mountains, and it's basically this like unkillable god, literally, and it's such an absolute crazy. Have you played Ragnarok?
I've got it in my library. It's one of, for some reason, somehow not gone round to.
Yeah, it's absolute. No, I'm not sure which. I'm not sure which game it's in. They kind of go into the same thing. It's absolute crazy boss.
That whole game is just filled with so many big set pieces and spectacles.
Yeah.
That series, I mean.
Yeah, like so many. Like you could. I was gonna go with the Hydra from God of War 2 for like similar reasons, because like it's so insane when it just sets it so well.
Yeah.
Like the multi-phase kind of bosses and stuff like that. But yeah, basically, once again, you could do an entire list off just God of War kind of bosses, really.
To be fair. And the combat is always so visceral and fun that they all stick out in a different way. Especially with the different weapons and sort of combos and skills that you get in the newer games versus OG ones. It's pretty satisfying.
Yeah, definitely. And yeah, I'm very much looking forward to more God of War.
Is there more planned?
I presume there'll be more planned.
Nice.
I think they kind of hint at it in Ragnarok, but there's nothing at the moment because Sony's obviously having a year off this year by the seams of things.
I hope they do like just eventually go through different pantheons. It's like, well, now we're in Egypt for some reason. Here we go.
I feel like it will be Egypt next.
That'd be pretty
Just
rough.
obliterate every god from every religion slowly.
Like it.
But rather than
Like John Wick
I
for
don't
God.
know, there must be a word for like god killing. Not
Deicide?
Deicide. Go from Deicide to the final part of today's podcast. Actually, no, we have one last thing. Talking of brutal battles to the death.
Ah!
Nearly
yes.
forgot. So,
Bum,
March
bum, bum, bum.
Madness is nearly come to its conclusion.
Yeah, we've got our final bracket before going to the final.
And I haven't actually looked to see how this has gone. So, Dan, please try and run back this insanity.
So we started off with two separate wheels of like choice pickers. One was monsters of some particular kind. Another one was video game or nerdy pop culture references. We then picked at random and made an east and a west bracket, and then made them fight to the death. We had what did we have? Aha, lovely. Thank you.
I have the brackets here because it's been a lot.
It's been a lot. It's been many things. Starkiller from the Force Unleashed games versus Predator. Original Mighty Morphin Power Rangers versus Dilophosauri.
Yeah, we had this conversation last time.
Diffles from Jurassic Park. Starkiller went through on his round, and the Mighty Morphin Power Rangers on theirs, but -1 because they did get casualties. I forgot the word there. Starkiller is now through from that side into the final. We also had Stephen Hawking on Compound V versus the Babadook, naturally.
One of the more random.
Yeah, Babadook did win. And then we had Ash Ketchum with all of his Pokemon versus the Bat Squatch. And Ash went through with the Bat Squatch because he managed to catch him. So today we have the Babadook versus Ash and the Bat Squatch. That's what we are going to be arguing.
So if any of that made any sense to you, for the insane ramblings of a bad man, which we are both inherently mad. So we always throw these to you viewers over on YouTube. You can vote on there, and then we go with the vote on there. And I wasn't sure how this was going to go, the Babadook versus Ash Ketchum.
Yeah, I'm in my head, I'm kind of on the fence on it. I think I know which way I would go.
So the public has gone 73% with one person.
I'm going to assume, as you said, person, they went Ash.
Yes, so I think the general consensus is Ash Ketchum would win. And I think the reason we had it last time, in the last kind of bracket, that the Babadook would win is because essentially Stephen Hawking on Compound V couldn't really do anything against a kind of ghost, mythical demon creature.
Yeah, just a grief-powered monster.
Yeah, but I'm presuming, like, going with kind of ghost-type Pokemon, Ash wouldn't really have a problem with that.
That's a very good point. I was wondering if... I can't remember if in the film you can actually deal any physical damage to it, but... as, like, all things in the universes are valid in this, and Ash will fight ghosts, kind of does make sense, actually.
Yeah, you just got to find a Pokemon which is strong against ghost type, and he's probably away. Or, once again, like we've alluded to many times, the Master Ball, which... I don't know if we've decided if he's used the Master Ball by this time, but I feel like it needs to be taken out of play before the final, otherwise it's going to be the cheapest final ever and we'll get cancelled.
That's true. Oh, yeah, imagine a powered-up Ash with the Bat Squatch and the Babadook.
See, I feel like then it's actually going to have some form of competition for our final, which somehow will be Starkiller versus Ash and friends.
Yeah, so I'm trying to figure out, the Babadook can, like, possess things and levitate and work off people's grief. But Ash is always very positive. I don't know if it would be able to get much of a foothold with him unless it possessed
No,
Cubone.
I feel like, because even like, didn't Ash make friends with Gengar?
I think so.
Like, I can't know. In canon,
Lore accurate.
Ash is friends with ghosts.
Fair point.
And if not, he could just beat them with... I always forget what's powerful against ghost type. Is it psychic?
That would make sense.
Yeah. If not, Pokeballs, throw enough.
Yeah, eat it.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
Which takes us down to our final on the next episode, which will be Starkiller versus Ash Ketchum.
Yeah. So, shall we let the listeners decide if he's going to use the Master Ball and whether it will carry through the Babadook?
I feel like we need to take the Master Ball out of play, otherwise that's the cheapest, worst ending to anything ever.
Cool. So use Master Ball, grab Babadook, so then he can't use it against me.
No more Master Ball.
Okay.
Because obviously that's just an instant win.
Yeah, Ash is now packing quite the team.
Also, this is something to consider, everyone, going into the final. Law accurate, Pokeballs can only capture Pokemon.
True.
Which we're going to kind of let slide with the Babadook and the Batsquatch, because I feel like they can be... Starkiller is a dude.
Yeah. And also, if the Babadook feeds off of grief and depression because it was all allegorical, I'd imagine like a Jedi Sith person that's murdered a bunch of people is probably going to have some issues.
Yeah.
I reckon the Babadook can probably cause some problems with him.
It's going to be a close one, but yeah, we will put the vote out before the final in the next week or two.
Yes.
Which brings us on to the final part of the podcast. And that is some questions from the public.
Excellent.
So the first one comes from Copstar123. Remember, if you ever have a question, we put this out over on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. A couple of days for the podcast, we can get some fresh questions in every time. And this one, I think we can both answer. So Copstar123 says, do you go for platinums when playing PS3, PS4 or PS5 games? If so, how many do you have?
I look at the chances of me being able to do it until whether I start that battle.
Yeah.
I think I've gotten like 3 platinums.
Are they all Telltale games?
I wish. That'd probably be a good way to get that win.
Telltale games are really easy. You can essentially finish the game and get platinum.
Nice. I think the ones I've gotten are... What did I get? Resident Evil 5?
That's a good one.
Call of Duty World at War, which means I had to do that.
Oof!
Yeah, I had to snipe Hitler with a pistol.
You mean Grenade Simulator?
Yes. That was... Oh, God. I think the last one I was stuck on was, like, the Hitler bit.
Do you know what's actually really funny?
What's that?
That was the one that broke me.
Really?
So, a little bit of story time with Dan. On the Xbox 360, I was a proper achievement whore. I would hammer achievements. I have well over 100,000 gamer score on Xbox. So it's carried over. But I don't really actively go for platinums anymore just because my backlog is real, and sometimes I feel like they can take away the enjoyment of games.
Yeah, if you're particularly grinding for one set of circumstances. It can be
and that's what actually happened with Call of Duty World at War, trying to play that on Veteran. Just infinite grenades all the time and cheap checkpoints, and just... That was the last game I also actually broke a controller on.
Damn.
Because of that reason. I think it was like coming to one of the last levels on the Russian campaign where you're trying to like storm the very last part of that.
Yeah.
And it was just like, you're going like 6 foot and then checkpointing, then just getting grenaded. And it was just that repeatedly. And I'm like, this is breaking me.
Yeah, I think I remember having the exact same thing. It just like spawn in, grenade. No!
Yeah, it's an absolute... But yeah, so I've kind of retired from platinum hunting. I will do it periodically with a game I absolutely love. But yeah, on 360, I was a fiend.
I too have broken a controller in rage on gaming.
Oh, which game?
Dark Souls 1.
Totally understandable. And it's pretty much why I don't play Dark Souls games, because controllers are way more expensive these days.
Yeah, I got a little bit of stick drift right when I was about to, I assume, beat a boss. It had that little health left, and then it just decided to just kind of sideways a little bit.
That's some terrible timing.
I got bonked, thumped the controller, broke it, and somehow on a round analog stick sliced my knuckle open. Strong.
You died. So
did not get good.
Next question from the Primo 80s. I think we have had this one before, but it changes periodically. What are your favourite YouTubers to watch? And this goes go on to another question.
Oh, I quite like binging with Babish, and especially ones where he rates like weird foods, or especially like poverty meal watcher submissions. They're quite fun. I don't know what other things I would do. Matt Rose, he's a funny one. A guy that just collates weird things that happen on Reddit and Twitter and such. They're quite entertaining. That's some of my top ones.
Yeah, I'll kind of go with some UK ones. I really like Retro Go. He's very good. Most of these people I've met out game hunting for. I mainly watch kind of game hunting people, so like Retro Go, he's very good. He's got one of the best game rooms I've ever seen. Ed Hunts, he's an absolute fiend at car boots, finds some absolutely incredible items, flips them into CX for good money. He's very good. He also sells at gaming markets, which is really cool to see. So I love seeing the gaming markets I do miss. And then another one of my favourites is Retro Rummage, because he has one of the most curated PS1 collections I've ever seen, and also has done most of that with flipping at the car boots. And
Cool.
yeah, it's just amazing. I always feel like I don't have luck at the car boots that other people do, but I'm sure people probably watch my videos and go, oh, you have luck all the time. But yeah, those guys just absolutely smash it at the car boots. But it kind of links on to the question from the Primo 80 saying, also a YouTuber called Kale visited CEX in Italy. Did you know there are CEXs in Italy? I did know. So if you haven't watched me over on YouTube, I am slowly trying to visit every single CEX store in the entire world, which has so far stayed in the UK. And I think this does go on to the next question after this. So I'm going to answer this question from the Primo 80s and part of Sobek 2012's question. So I am slowly finishing the CEX World Tour. I'm kind of hoping at some point that I can either get some kind of sponsorship for this with some kind of travel deal, or the fact what I normally do is when I'm going to visit CEX stores further away, I'll try and encompass it with a holiday.
Makes sense.
So it makes a bit more sense rather than driving like hundreds of miles for CEX stores. So this does actually affect the podcast in a way. In the next few weeks, I'm hoping to either go very, very far north or very, very far south. So I'm either going to be going to Scotland or kind of Somerset kind of area. So that's when I'll be visiting CEX stores in that area. So try and encompass it with things and somehow keep my carbon footprint slightly more neutral. But yeah, there is stores all around Europe. I think there's stores in Mexico.
Sweet.
I think there's some really random ones. Yeah, so I did know there's CEX stores everywhere. Frankly, there's none in America anymore. I think they closed there, which is...
Am I making it up that there's one in Australia?
Yes. So if the Australian Tourist Board would like to get me and Dan a couple of tickets out to Australia, that'd be fantastic. And also, if all the spiders and scorpions and sharks and stingrays and alligators and crocodiles and general everything in Australia would just stick away from CX.
Swimming knives, all the other stuff.
Which brings us on to a multi-part question from Sobek 2012. So, first thing is, what is your most expensive game in your collection? So I think this is probably more aimed towards me because you're not as big a physical collector.
No. I'd say, drawing on my trauma, it would have been probably Hyperstone Heist, but I think now probably Deadpool.
Yeah, that was one that's got surprisingly expensive over time.
Yeah, I managed to find the PlayStation version of that for like 15 quid at a gaming market at the Forum in Norwich.
Nice.
Yeah, it was pretty good.
I think mine would be something for the Virtual Boy. I've got 5 different games for the Virtual Boy that I cannot remember off the top of my head which 5 they are, but it's definitely one of those. I think probably the Wario game on there is pretty expensive. They are loose, but that's definitely some of my more expensive games. It's one of those ones I really have to rack while I'm trying to look around. Some of the collector's editions are very expensive.
I'll bet.
But I kind of shy away from some of the really, really expensive games because sometimes I think for the price of like something really expensive, I could play 5 or 6 things of like lesser.
Yeah, that's fair.
Like, I'm quite happy to go out and pay like up to around £100 for games. When it goes above 100, that's when I get really quite picky sometimes.
Yeah.
And sometimes I do question the value.
That's fair.
Thinking what I could buy. Most of the time, I'd rather buy a couple of games rather than one very high-end game, but that's just my personal kind of collecting like way of doing it.
Yeah. And difficult as a question as this might be, but what is your favourite out of the Virtual Boy games you've had, if any of them?
The Wario game's actually pretty good.
Okay.
Mario Tennis on there is not too bad. They're worth playing on emulate. I think we've said about this before. They're worth emulating and not playing on the original hardware, which is the first and only time I'll probably say that, because essentially they're just decent Game Boy Game Boy Advance style games,
Mhm.
but the 3D effect is just terrible.
Sinclair.
Yeah, but Sobek was very cheeky and just put many questions in one, which I fully commend. So the next question is, what is your most expensive games console?
I'm gonna say, adjusting for inflation, and I don't actually own it anymore, but I did get a PS3 at launch.
That must have been 500 at launch.
That it was.
Yeah.
Ow. At least I had somewhere to also grill my sandwiches though.
Yeah. How long did it survive?
It survived a while. Eventually it did bite the dust and I got the Slim, which was a bit better.
R.I.P. all those PS3s.
Yeah, just get bricked.
I actually still have a launch backwards compatible one, which I'm too scared to use because it is a ticking time bomb. So I do need to get the thermal paste replaced on, but I'm just absolutely scared of it. For me, it's probably the Virtual Boy, which I've told the story about before. It was gifted to me off a random person on a Facebook group, which is absolutely wild. But I think in the future, my most expensive console, when I complete it, will be the Sega Tower of Power.
Nice.
So I have the Mega CD one. On top of that, I have the Mega Drive one, and eventually I am aiming to have the 32X on top. But the 32X itself is about £300 for a library of games, which is barely over free. But I digress. You know, collectors be collecting. The final part of this question, because I've kind of said about I will complete the CX tour hopefully in my lifetime, or die trying.
That'd be the Australian way.
If not, I will just pass on to Dan to avenge me. And the final question from Sobek 2012, and the final question for today's podcast is, what is your most played game?
Oh, good heavens.
Get your shame out.
What is it? I genuinely think it's either going to be Vice City or
I didn't think of
Elder
that.
Scrolls Oblivion. OG, obvi.
I think mine is probably Fallout 3.
Nice.
Because of all the DLC and the multiple playthroughs I've done of all the DLC, because I normally start it as a different build and then just do the whole game.
Yeah.
But I have also done that on a Skyrim. It's going to be close because I've done that with Skyrim. I've done whole playthroughs of like Chuck Norris melee builds on Skyrim and just basically punched my way throughout the world.
Nice. To be fair, if I looked at my logs for Dark Souls 2, that might be quite far up there, actually.
I think Vampire Survivors is probably sneaking.
Yeah, if I sort of, do inflation on how much I've played in a short time, I'd probably
And I
be
think
up.
Helldivers 2 did a number on us because we were playing that hardcore like 5 days a week.
Yeah, just one more dive.
Just for like a decent amount of time. But I think it's going to be something from Bethesda.
I reckon, yeah.
100%, because I ploughed into those RPGs and I put some time into them. But speaking of time, I think our time for today is just about over, so we must get back to the real world. And yeah, we will be planning for the next episode of the podcast, which we will probably get one more before I go on my road trip, including hopefully that much anticipated over 18 scary Reddit stories, which hopefully doesn't get the podcast cancelled indefinitely. We will have warnings before, during, and probably after. But for now, I'm going to say goodbye.
I will also say goodbye.
And until next time, keep playing the game. See you soon.